All right, thanks everyone for joining us. I know there are a few people still in the waiting room that will be coming in, but for everyone who is here, if you can show your faces, it makes it so much easier for our guests to have a face to talk to. Don't worry, we won't call on you, but if you can show your face, that's always helpful for our guests. And before we get started, I do want to send out a special thank you to two of our partners that helped us out during our opening weekend. We had Just for Kicks, Boston, and Move Strong Physical Therapy. They work closely together, and they provided the recovery tents. And I just put a photo of what it looked like when we were in Lancaster. I know a lot of our players took advantage of that opportunity to learn a little bit more about stretching and took advantage of the massage gun, which I didn't, but I should have. So if we can give support to the groups that support us, that would mean a lot to me. They're on Instagram, Just for Kicks LLC, and then at Move Strong Physical Therapy. Again, two groups of professionals that have always supported us, even last year when we had our events. Just for Kicks Boston sponsored our t-shirts for our college showcase, our mixed club event. So again, these are two groups of professionals that continually support us. So without further ado, let me see if I can stop sharing here. We have a special guest tonight, somebody who actually I've known for, I think 20 years now. I had the opportunity to go to Springfield College to get my graduate degree, and I was an assistant coach for the women's soccer team at Springfield College when they were Division II program. And at that time, only one player on that team could get a scholarship, and that player was Angel, and she'll be speaking with us today. She was a three-time All-America, right? Angel, give me a nod. Okay, great. Then she went on. She actually coached at Springfield College. Her background in soccer, playing-wise, she's still an active adult player. You never want to play against Angel. You always want Angel on your team, and that's a fact. And I had an opportunity to play with her for a few years, actually. But Angel Mogel is, did I say it correctly, Angel? You'll change it for me. But Angel comes to us from right now at Wachusett High School. She did coach at West Boylston High School. She's a former coach, like I said, at Springfield College and also at Wentworth Institute of Technology. She did end up beating me when we played when I was at Endicott College. I'll never forgive her for that. That was a really tough game under the lights and really a tough atmosphere. That's why we lost Angel. But she comes to us today to talk about mindset. In particular, I asked her to focus in on how we can get stronger mentally and stand out from the crowd. These are all important aspects that we need to consider as soccer players. So what we do on the field is one thing, but our mental capacity on the field and off the field, really, you need to develop a different set of tools. So I'm going to turn the stage over to Angel, who will get into her presentation. If you have any questions along the way, please be sure to add to the chat, and I will be sure to ask our guest. And then when she does have questions for all of you, if you can please either raise your hand, add it to the chat, or unmute yourself, that would be terrific. Angel, it's all yours.
All right, great. Can you hear me okay? All good, wonderful. So yes, before I start, I did want to put a shout out to Miss Dr. Gentili. I call her Niner, so tonight I'll call her Dr. Niner. But yeah, she was our grad assistant coach when I played my senior year. And I only had her for one season, but hands down, one of my best coaches I've ever had. And I had lots of them. So if you have an opportunity to work with her in any way, shape, or form, go for it, because she's just a fantastic woman role model for you that you'll learn plenty from. So I highly recommend any chance you get to soak in anything she has for you. So with that, minus her messing up my new name, it's Mogel, but that's okay. As Dr. Niner told you, yes, I have played a lot of soccer. I am back in the generation where they didn't have girls soccer. So I started off playing on a co-ed team when I was 10 years old. And that's when my love for soccer started. So I played at the youth level, I played at the club level, I played at the state ODP level, played on in college, and then on to semi-pro after that for a few years. And then I caught the coaching bug. And I love that just as much. So I am super excited to talk about this topic because I feel like this is what sets you apart from being a great versus a fantastic player, or a role player versus an impact player. And I have coached and had teammates that on paper look brilliant, great technical ability, great tactical ability, fit, strong, really, really, really great players, and lacking the mindset. And they didn't do as well as they could. And I've also coached and played with people who maybe were lacking in some of those areas, but had such a great mental toughness and mindset that they blew people away. I like to think I'm in that category. I was never the most skilled. I was never the fastest. I was never the fittest, but I was the hardest worker by far. And I was very, very mentally strong. And I think that's what really helped me overcome a lot of obstacles and have a great career. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity to talk about this for you. So my goals tonight are to share with you what I think mindset is and some of the things that you can do to improve it. I want to give you a chance to evaluate where you think you are and to give you some tools to maybe help you in that category. So that's what I'm hoping for today. If you have any questions as we go along, please put it in the chat. And if you all feel that I should be answering it right away, you can stop me from what I'm doing. If not, we can hold them to the end as well. But I am going to make you all work a little bit. So if you happen to, if you don't have a pen and paper nearby, I'm going to give you a second to go grab it. So if you can just grab a notebook of some sort, some paper, pen, because I have a little activity to do. So I'll give you a second to grab those. And what I want you to do once you have it, I just want you to put 3 columns down. One column, I want you to write confident. So in that confident, anything that I give you that you are completely confident in and you are like a master at it, I want you to put that word in there. In the second column, I want you to put, inconsistent. So maybe there's times where you can show it or you can, display what I'll be telling you, but sometimes you can't. So that would be the inconsistent column. And then the last column is I need some work. This is an area where I struggle. This is an area where I want to learn more. All right. And you're the only one looking at this, so don't worry about it. Just be honest with yourself and where you're at. And then what we'll do, I'm going to ask you where you are. I'm going to ask what you want to learn more about, because I really want to make sure that I hit some topics that are important to you as well. All right, so those that are showing your faces, are we ready? We have the 3 columns, the thumbs up. Are we good? Yes, yes. All right, fantastic. You ready? I'm going to go through. There's quite a few things on my list here. So first one, mental toughness. How would you rank your personal mental toughness? Put them in one of the columns. Second one, ability to recover from a mistake. I think about this one. I think about sometimes I see strikers, they take a shot and they miss and they're fixing their shoe or they're fixing their shin guard. Like that was the problem, right? Or if you see in other sports, tennis, that they swing and miss, they're looking at their racket, like somehow it was the racket's fault, not theirs. If somebody gets beat in the game, what are you doing? Are you running back to get that ball back, or are you putting your head down and feeling sorry for yourself that you just missed it? So are you able to recover from a mistake? Next one would be your positive self-talk. Do you do it? What do you say to yourself? In general, what do you say to yourself before a game? What do you say to yourself after a mistake? What do you say to yourself during a fitness run or anything that's challenging? What kind of talks are going on in your head? And how do you do with that? How are you with mentally preparing yourself for a match or a game or a practice? And you can look into this a little bit more, but there's two kind of types of mindset. It's called a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And the growth mindset is, you're able to handle change. So if a coach were to tell you you're going to do a new formation, or you're going to be in a brand new position, or you're going to try something that you've never done before, is that something that you're confident in doing, or is that something that scares you? Are you able to be open to new ideas and new strategies and new skills? How are you at risk taking? So again, this kind of goes with that. You're new on a team. You've never played a certain position. Coach asks for a volunteer to play somewhere. Are you taking that risk to go for it, or are you kind of sitting back? If you're a striker, when you hit that attacking third, are you going to goal right away, or are you looking to pass? Are you the one who wants that ball or not? How are you on your risk taking and your thoughts with that? How about playing under pressure? Do you play big in big games? Again, the same thing. You're down, need a goal, less than 2 minutes. Are you the one making those runs, demanding that ball, or are you kind of taking a back seat? Where would you put playing big in big games? How about your focus? Are you able to focus without distractions? Are you able to leave outside problems outside when you go to step on that field? If you have things going on with school, with your family, with your friends, are you able to let that go once you step on that field to practice or game, or does that come on with you? How are you accepting your role? How are you if the coach tells you, you know what, this year you're not going to play a whole lot. You're going to be coming off the bench, or maybe you're not going to come off the bench. How are you with accepting that? These next two are big ones. How are you with accepting constructive criticism when you agree with the coach? So the coach tells you you have to work on something and you totally agree with them. How are you with that? And how are you when you get that constructive criticism and you don't necessarily believe or believe the same? You don't think the coach is right, or you don't feel the same way. How do you handle those situations? You're almost done. Are you physically tough? Soccer's a physical game. I always tell my players, if you're not sore or bumped or bruised or after a game, then you didn't play hard enough. But if you're going to get hit in a game and you get taken out, are you popping back up and ready to go, or are we flopping around, or do we usually have to come out to recover? Where are you in the physical toughness? Do you set goals? And more importantly, do you have plans to make those goals? Two more. Do you worry about what other people are thinking? Do you worry about playing for other people? Do you worry about what the coach is thinking, what your parents are thinking, what the fans are thinking, what your teammates are thinking? Or are you able to go out there and just play for you? And lastly, how's your ability to let go of something bad? If it was a bad loss or a string of bad losses, or you're in a rut, are you able to let that go? I lied. There's two more. I'm sorry. Body language. This is so important. How's your body language? How's your body language after a mistake? How's your body language when coach is instructing you? How's your body language when a captain talks to you or a teammate? Do you even pay attention to it? And lastly, how confident are you in your play? Where's your confidence level right now? Are you pretty confident that you're confident, or is it inconsistent, or is that an area you want to work at? Woo, all right. Didn't think you were going to have to do all this work, right? So, what I want you to do now is take a quick look on that sheet that you just wrote down. And I would like you in your chat to put a number, well, let's go 1 to 10. 1 being, you know what, I really need to work on this area. I struggle in a lot of those areas that I just gave you. You put a lot of them in that, either inconsistent or need work. 10 being total confident, I have it all, not even sure why I'm on here tonight because I could be speaking. All right, so that's where I want you to go, 1 to 10. So I'll give you like 30 seconds to figure out your number and throw it in the chat. Dr. Niner, if you can tell me roughly what you think those numbers look like, that would be awesome.
Okay, so we're gonna rank our least to our best in the category.
In general, as a whole, 1 to 10, your soccer mindset, with all those things that I gave you, where do you think you would fall? 1 would be really need to work on it. 5 would probably be a little inconsistent. 10 being I'm fantastic at it. It's my strength.
So I'm just getting numbers, 5, 7, 6, or do you want words?
Numbers works right now.
Okay, great. 5 to 7 right now we have.
5 to 7 looks like it. All right, good. So room for improvement on some. Okay, now what I want you to do, what areas were in your I need work with? So I'm going to talk about, I think about 5 of them that I think are really important. But if you can track some of the ones that they're writing down in case I don't hit them, and then we can talk about them. Mm-hmm. So I want you to look at your list that you have I need to improve on and just type those topics in the chat. And if I don't cover them right away, we will get to them at the end. Does that sound like a plan? Everyone clear on that? Okay, so what I'd like you to think about, because it's interesting always to me of people who really are mentally tough and where they get that from. And I want you to think about where you scored yourself and why you think that is. And I'm going to share with you why I feel personally why I'm so mentally tough and talk a little bit about that. And I want you to think about that though for yourself as well, because that might help you as you go. I have, how many, can everyone do their raise their hand thing? Does that work on this? If they did, do they have a raise a hand option? Dr. Niner, do you know?
Yeah, if you go to participants, you guys can hit, maybe we don't have that function.
Maybe you don't have that. All right, that's okay. Well, I will tell you, I not only did soccer, but I was also a gymnast and I did track and field and I did softball. I'm a big fan of doing more than just one sport personally. And I was a gymnast, and I don't know how many gymnasts we have out there, but they made you tough. I can vividly remember at about 10 years old, I was fairly high level at that time. And I was doing I think a back handspring on the beam. And I can remember I went, and I've done hundreds of these, and I went and my hand slipped. And I landed on my head, neck. I don't even know what I did, but it didn't feel great. And it really scared me. And I didn't even hit the ground. And my coach was like, get up there and do it again. And so I could remember several times with that in gymnastics that if you wiped out, you got your butt back up there and you would have to do it 5 to 10 times in a row. And that's how they got you out of the fear, because you would never do it again. So those are my early memories of really being able to be mentally and physically tough. I think that's where that came from. Once I grew like 6 inches in a year and was no longer good at gymnastics, that's when I started soccer. And, I was pretty good at the start. And I think gymnastics was an important part of that as well. But I was fortunate enough to play on one of the best club teams. Back when I played there was only 8 club teams, period, in Massachusetts. And each club had 1 team per age group. So there were not the levels that they have now. So, they would take, the top 18 players for each club. And I played that for from U12 probably up to college. And I also played with the ODP. So then from the 8 club teams, then you would try out for the Olympic development program, and then you'd make the ODP team. So I played ODP for U12 2 years, U14 2 years, and did really well. Ended up getting pretty sick from my braces, believe it or not. And I was out for a month. I lost over 30 pounds. I couldn't eat. And I had to step away from soccer for a little bit. Came back. I missed a big tournament, missed the ID camp, came back at U15, and I was cut. And it was devastating. And I had always been on the team. I had always been a pretty good player on that team. Some of it was politics. Some of it, my strength wasn't back. But I got cut, and I can very much remember that ride home was not a fun ride home. I remember just staring out the window and just in disbelief. I just couldn't believe it. Came back the next year, I got cut again. And then I was at a crossroads where, what am I going to do? This has been my life. And now, I can't even get on this team that I was doing so well on. And I had some thinking to do. And luckily, I decided to, I'm going to give it one last shot. And I trained harder and I worked harder and I spoke to some coaches of what I needed to do. I came back on U17 and I made it again. And I went to regional camp that year and I made the regional ODP, the regional team that year as well. And the same coach that cut me on the U14 or the U15 came by and walked by, and my maiden name, name at the time was Schofield. He goes, "Hey, Schofield, I guess you could play." And, at the time I wanted to punch him in the nose. I was like, he didn't realize what he did to me at a 15-year-old, devastated me. But, that made me pretty tough. And that made me, want it more. And so those two things, between the physical and just mental toughness of the gymnastics and getting cut and having to come back 2 years in a row, were pretty big for me. And I think that developed some pretty mentally tough skills that I use now. After college, I made it injury-free for the most part. But I've had 2 ACLs, 1 on each knee. I've had my ankle reconstructed. I've had 3 small surgeries, and I've come back to them all. I'm still playing, right? So that takes some mental toughness and guts to come back from those big surgeries. One being just last year that I tore my ACL, and I'm old. So that wasn't as much fun to get back, but I'm back. And so I think for me, that's what has helped me become mentally tough and have that mental piece. So think about that. And more importantly, because I think the way things are structured now, I think some players who come to me as either a high school player or college had a pretty easy road. They've made every team that they tried out for. They've played on every team they've tried out for. They get equal playing time on most teams that they play for. And so I find the players that struggle the most with the mindset piece are the ones that kind of had an easy road. And they struggle the most because when you get to, and depending on what high school, right? If you're going to a Division I high school like I'm at now, it's tough. I had to cut some club players this year, or club players are playing JV1 or JV2. But at the college level, everyone who comes in for recruits, you're all the best. They're all the best from their teams. They're all their best from their town. They're usually their best from their high school. They're the best. And so sometimes those are the kids that struggle when they're told their role is going to be different than they expect, or they're going to have to wait a year or two to kind of earn their spot. Those are the players that I find have it tough with this mindset piece. So, I hope that many of you don't have to go through trials and tribulations to get yourself mentally strong. But if you haven't, you have to have a plan. You have to think about that. What am I going to do if I'm told, hey, I'm not going to get that starting role, or I'm not making the team that I'm expecting? How are you going to handle that, and how do you plan for that? So I want you to kind of have that in your mind as we talk about these things today. So the first thing I want to talk about is your self-talk. Did that come up, Dr. Niner, in any of the?
So body language was the number one thing.
Good. All right. And I'm in on that for sure. I have that in here. What I explained for self-talk, Our brains actually don't recognize the word don't. So if I were to tell you, don't choke, or don't stop, or don't quit, our brains don't recognize the don't. So if you take those don'ts away from those three words, what do you have? Choke, quit, and stop. So if you're on a run and you're trying to get a testing done, or if you're in the game or anything and you're telling yourself, don't quit, don't stop, going up for a PK and you're like, oh my God, don't choke, don't choke, don't choke. And you're repeating that over your head, you're repeating the thing you don't want to do in your head over and over and over again. And I can tell you from the college level, this is probably the biggest thing players struggled with, was what they tell themselves after they make a mistake, whether they're going up to do a pressure, whether they're taking that PK or hitting a direct ball or going in for the first time. The self-talk is so, so important. So what I'd like you to do now on this piece of paper as well, think about what is going to be your positive self-talk when things get tough. What's your positive self-talk when you're out on a training run maybe, and you don't like to run like myself? I hate running, but I know it's important for soccer, so I do it. I know it's important for my life, so I do it. I love it once it's over, but while I'm in it, even to this day, and I run almost every day, I have a self thing when I want to start walking, when I want to start, I start getting inside my head going, do I really need to do this today? I have two words that just turn it around, but it's in a positive light. So I'd like you to take a second to write two words, and it can be simple and easy. But what are you going to say to yourself when things get down or things aren't going your way to snap yourself out of it? Because it's easy to go down the wrong trail. I don't know how many of you are Olympic fans, but I was watching the men's gymnastics, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but after every single event he did, he would scream, let's go. And he had everybody up running, let's go. So all summer long, that was my running. Every time I wanted to stop, I'd be like, let's go. And it made me keep going. So definitely you want to have a mantra that's in a positive light that's going to make you go. And it can be super simple and easy. And the other thing I want to talk about is self-talk is, I think sometimes we're really hard on ourselves. We sometimes are perfectionists and want to do everything perfectly. And at the end of the day, any sport that you play, if everyone did everything perfectly, there would be no scores, right? There'd be no winners. Every goal that happens in soccer is because somewhere something went down. There was a mistake made somewhere. So it's really hard to be a successful athlete, I think, in any sport, if you are going to get down on yourself every time you make a mistake, right? So it's really important to make that snap in your head on how you can get out of that. But I also want you to think about if you have a teammate that misses an easy shot, or a teammate who screws up a pass, or a goalie keeper who puts it through their legs, which is a nightmare, right? What are you telling your teammate? Think about that. Are you telling them, oh my God, you're terrible. What an awful mistake. Are you kidding me? We don't go off on our friends or our teammates, but sometimes we say those to ourselves. All right. And we want to make sure we're not in a habit of doing that, because you will be what you believe you are. You will be what you say you're going to be. So if you're constantly in your head, telling yourself how horrible you are, you've made a mistake, or you're not good enough, that's exactly what you're going to end up to be. So I can't tell you how important that self-talk is to kind of be your own cheerleader and pump yourself up. And once you get good at it, then it's your responsibility to help a teammate out who can't, who is struggling with that. Imagine if that catches wildfire across the team, of everyone coming in with a positive self-image, a positive self-talk of, how well you could do as a whole with that. Okay, so that's the first part, self-talk. Now, body language was actually number 2 for me. All right. And you've all seen it, right? What do you do when you make a mistake? We'll take strikers. You shoot, you miss, you should have had it. It was an easy ball, and you either shank it, you field goal it, you hit it wide, you hit it right at the keeper. What do you do? And I can tell you from a coach's perspective, I'm watching that. As a coach, I am watching body language all the time. I'm watching it when you're playing. I'm watching it when you're speaking with me. I'm watching it when I'm explaining a drill. I am watching it all the time. And so if I see someone make a mistake and their head goes back like, ugh, and they flail, or their head goes straight down to their toes, like, oh my gosh, or they're fixing something that they thought it was, I have a sign that mentally they're not quite there. And that's something that we need to kind of work on, right? I know for me as a player, if I missed a shot in a game, I would sprint and go get it. I would go get it for the keeper or wherever. I would just sprint and go get it because that was my punishment for missing. It cleared my mind. Okay, I've done it. I hate to run. So next time I'm going to put it on net. And usually that worked for me, right? If someone took the ball from me defensively, I was getting that ball back immediately. I just would. That's just what I would do. And I would go back. And that was a really positive thing for me. I had great pride in all my teammates telling me I was the hardest working striker, because strikers used to get I don't know if they still get that as much, but we were known for being lazy. We were known for just, getting all the glory. And I always took great pride in all my teammates thought you were the hardest. I was the hardest worker because I'd win that ball back because I would get aggravated that I lost it. Right. But a lot of times you see on the field, you lose it and they quit. People quit. You got to keep running after that ball. You never know when you can get that back. So that body language is super important on that field, right? And if you do that and you're showing like your disappointment in yourself, or your opponents know it now. If I was playing you, I'd be all over you. I'd be like, oh, she's down. Let's keep her there. Right. So a lot of it is you have to fake it till you make it, I like to say, right? Even if inside you're killing yourself for what you just did, you can't show that on the outside because that's going to show weakness for someone playing against you and they might take advantage of that. Right. Body language in general, when you're speaking with a coach or teacher or any adult really, are you establishing eye contact? Right? Are you nodding? Are you recognizing? Are you hearing them? We can tell. We can tell when you're dazed off. We can tell when you're paying attention to the other team that's practicing or across the way. We see that. And I don't think people think that or know that. We see those eye rolls. We can see them. Especially those that are mothers, we really see them because I see them all the time from my 13-year-old daughter. I can pick those out like that, right? But those are the things we're looking at. All right, as a whole, if you're going on an interview, you're going to check out a team, a college, if you're going for an overnight, you want to be there, you want to be present, you want to, really be involved and be there so you make a good impression on that. But body language is probably one of the most important things and part of this mindset for sure. Other thing I want to talk about is, and I do this with every team I coach, we do a little activity called UCs and Cs. The UCs are uncontrollables. The Cs are controllables. So I have my team write down everything that they're stressed out about. And I usually do this within the first couple of days of tryouts. What are you worried about? Put it all down, get it on paper. I think part of that, just getting it off of your mind and on paper, you can let some of it go, which I think is a good practice. And we'll talk about journaling in a minute, but to just get it out of your head and on paper. And then what we do is we go through every single thing that is mentioned, and we determine whether it's in our control or if it's out of our control. Is it a C or a UC? Okay, if it's an uncontrollable, there's nothing we can do about it. We let those go and we just release them. And you just don't think about them anymore. And sometimes that takes some practice. Some uncontrollables will be, I'm worried about my playing time. I'm worried about if I'm going to make the team. Who has that decision making? You don't decide that as a player. Coaches decide that. So let it go. Don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do about that at the time, right? There's nothing you can do about it at the time. So you need to kind of let that go. But the things you can control are your attitude, your work rate, your body language, your self-talk, being on time, being responsible. All of those things you have full control over, and that takes zero talent for all of those things. And just think about if you focused all your time and energy and thoughts on all of those things, how well would you do? But we spend a lot of our time on thinking of things and worrying about things that are completely out of our control. And that can take you down, a wrong path or a wrong road. Right? And these are all kind of tied together. So think about that. When things are stressing you out, write them down. And it's nice when you've got 10 things and even half of them, even if 5 of them are out of your control and you can let them go, then you can focus on the 5 things you have control over and you can actually maybe accomplish some things. So that's a nice, positive, easy 5-minute activity that you can do to get yourself refocused. Goal setting. I'm sure many of you have gone through goal setting. I think a lot of us do goal setting. I think what we miss is the plan, or we do the goal setting and then we never revisit it again. And then, 2 months later, we go back, oh yeah, we talked about that, but did we do anything about it? But those goal setting, you want to make sure that they're very specific. They're in a time frame. You can measure them. And are they realistic? So for those of you that are either going to go for a varsity team, college or high school, find out what your goal is. If your goal is to make that varsity team, do some research. Find out. See if you can reach out to a coach. See if you can reach out to a player who's on that team. Hey, what do you do for tryouts? What testings do you do? Do you do a run test? Is there a lift test? Are there scrimmage evals? What does your coach do? Because with that information, you can find out what you need to work on. For my team, we do a 1.5 mile run. We do a shuttle run. And we will be doing a 3 to 5 mile run. It's helpful to know that, right? You don't want to find that out on day one. Oh my goodness, we're going out for this, right? You want to give yourself some time so you can build up and work on that. You want to find out things like how many seniors do they have? How many are they graduating? In what position, right? If they're only graduating a small number, is that a realistic goal anymore? I don't know. Are they, are you a striker and they have 6 already and none of them are graduating? Do I want to think about trying a different position so I can have a better chance of making that team? But you have to do a little research on your part to see that. And then from there, you can kind of set those goals and have 3 to 5 small goals and have a set a plan for them as you go. The last thing that I want to talk about is journaling. And I thought I had my player's journal here, but I don't have it. We do this for our team. And what we do is we do this for games. You can do these for games or practicing. But the very first thing we put on is a quote. Any quote that's inspiring to you. And that's what they start off theirs with. One of my favorite ones are character is who you are when no one's watching. What are you doing when no one else is watching? And another one is you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Those are probably my 2 favorite quotes that I have. You start off with a quote. So go ahead and write a quote that you have, the favorite quote that you might have that inspires you. And after that, we write 3 positive affirmations. So 3 positive self-talks about yourself, 3 things that you're good at. I am strong. I am confident. I am fast. Whatever it is. I'm a good teammate. All right, depending on what your role is. So you write those 3 things. And the next 3 things we write down are what am I thankful for? Gratitude. What am I happy for that I'm on this team? What am I thankful for? And I have them read those 3 things because it's important. It gets us in a positive mindset before our games. And then we write our goal games. What are we going to do today? What's my focus today? And I really try to have my team have them realistic, right? So my starters may say, I'm going to get 5 shots on goal today. Or I'm going to, the person I'm defending is not scoring. They are not scoring from my side today. Or my keepers might say, I'm getting a shutout today, or I'm going to have so many saves today. So they're very specific. But my players who don't get in a lot might say, I am going to support my team today. I am going to tell them man on or turn today. I am, I'm going to be there for my team. So they make it very realistic, right? Because you don't want to be someone that you're probably not going to get in and being like, I'm going to score a goal today, right? Because you're going to set yourself up to fail on those. But they also say, if I get in, I am going to, fill in the blank. And then what we do at the end of the game, we do a post-game review, and they just write down how did they do on their goals. And if they didn't get in, they get to say their 2 cents of how the team played and what we need to work on. And what this does for me, I personally read these journals and I write back to them. So it's a nice way for me to have some individual time with each of my players, and if they have any questions. But a journal is a really great way to get things down for you and get yourself focused and ready and have a plan to go. So Nina, is there anything else on there as far
Well,
as?
I think you really laid out a number of good things, and I know there's some coaches, on the Zoom right now, and I was taking notes as well. These are lessons for life. Journaling can be part of your life as well. So just to kind of express yourself, but in particular for me, being your own best teammate really resonated with me. So, and I think you're right about that. Like, we are so hard on ourselves, but we would never say those things. We shouldn't say those things to a teammate. So being your own best teammate is something I'm going to take with me from what you had to say. I would just like you to, if you can, just a little bit more about that. When a coach is giving you criticism, what do you want to see and hear from that player? Because sometimes a player will say, yes, coach, but they don't mean it.
Correct.
So I was just wondering if you can share a little bit about what a really powerful response would be from a player, and so what you would like to hear from a player.
Yeah. And that goes back to that body language, right? So as coaches, I know when it's a blank, yes, coach, yes, coach. I know when they're just like, okay, yes, coach. I kind of feel like, all right, they're not with me. Right. Follow-up questions. What can I do specifically? Okay, so I have to work on my first touch. How can I do that, coach? When can I do it? I want to hear someone say, what specifically can I do? Can you give me some activities or drills that's going to help that? Would you be willing to work with me before or after practice so you can show me those things? Those are the kind of responses that I know that they get it and they're going to work at it when they're asking me specific ways to make it happen. You can just tell. I can really just tell. And I think too, a response of, what, coach, I really wasn't expecting that. And it's okay to agree to disagree a little bit. Sometimes I think you need 24 hours to think about it. If it's a difficult conversation, coach, can we revisit this tomorrow? I need to really think about this. This was a tough one for me to kind of handle or swallow, but I want to know more about it. But it's okay to ask for a little time. I would much rather that than you yes me and then nothing changes. I don't know if that helps, but.
Yeah, no, that definitely helped me. So I'm just going to ask the group, if you have any questions, you put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. One thing I was thinking about, Angel, when you were talking is a lot of times as parents, our player gets in the car and we ask them, what did coach say to you? And oftentimes we get, I don't know, I don't want to talk about it. Can you speak to like how it might be helpful to debrief with your parents? Because as parents, we see things on the sideline. We don't really know what's going on. Can you just kind of let them know that this could be another form of just kind of letting stuff out, to have a clean sheet?
Sure. And I think too, I work hard at it's even harder to be a coach and a parent and a coach of your of your child. So I know for parents, for me, my message is simple for my daughter every single time. Work hard, have fun. That's all I tell her. For me, even coming back into the car, I ask her, did you work hard today? Did you have fun today? I keep it very simple because I do feel sometimes, I think, and I think it's my experience. I had a tough mom. I heard it on the car her ride home every single time. So every time I missed a goal, or every time she made me tough too. I probably should have put her in the, the category of making me tough, but I would hear it the whole ride home. So for me, I'm just super cautious of that. I want to make sure that they felt like they worked hard, that they enjoyed the experience. What did you learn? I like to just have open-ended question, and my daughter can share what she wants and doesn't, and not, whatever she wants. And when she's willing to share it, she will. I think you want to shy away of giving them your 2 cents, if you will. Even as a coach, I don't. If she asks me, I'll give some feedback. So I think for players, if you want your parents' feedback to ask, I'm sure they'd love to give you some. But as parents, you want to be their cheerleader. They're getting coached. But I do think that if the coach, you should share those things because your parents could help you, right? If your coach is giving you specific information on what to work on, that's an important conversation. And it's an important conversation, I think, to have with your parents. If your coach shares your role with them, I think that's super important. For my team, I share my roles with all my players. They know whether they're going to be, we categorize them as, gamer, starter, alternating starter, off the bench, bench. And it saves a lot of problems if players are open with their parents. Say, listen, this is where I am this year. Because sometimes they don't have that conversation, and then that's when we get the emails or the calls for the parents, and it's kind of a miscommunication. So I think that part's really important. Hey, mom, dad, this is my role this year, and I'm okay with it, and I'm going to work hard, and these are the things that I need to work on. I think that's important.
Great, thank you. Anybody else questions? How about any takeaways from tonight? I do journal all the time, actually, and I love it. I think it's really important. I have my students do it as well, and I, have the opportunity to write back to them. But journaling is important because when a lot of people say when you write things down, also it becomes almost like reality because it's a visual piece to your goal setting as well. So you should all try it if you haven't. It's one of the tools that a lot of people at the highest levels do, and sports psychologists talk about quite a bit. Questions from the group?
Dina, I've got a question for Angel. Angel, great to see you.
Hi, Mike.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Sure.
But I was just interested in you getting cut and then thinking about, what you were doing on your own time. Specifically, are there fields that you remember training on? Was it your backyard? Was it the street in front of your house? Because those are the things that I used to do. And I know that our players are pulled in so many different directions nowadays. And we ask that they train on their own, but they don't necessarily have the time. So I don't know if you could speak to, just maybe your experience a little bit, anything that you can recall about that time. And then how do we get players to train on their own just because they're just so overwhelmed with all the things they have in their lives?
Right. Yeah, I remember exactly what I used to do. I had a full-size net in my backyard. I also had at our high school, we had a big brick wall, and it had a mural of a bulldog. We were the Bulldogs. So I would take the ball, and it was great stress reliever, one. And two, it helped me with my accuracy. I would hit the eyeball on the bulldog like 10 times. And then I would hit its hat, and then I'd hit its tongue, and I'd do it with my left foot, and I would do it with my right foot. And I spent a lot of time at the high school for me, because it got me away from my mom a little bit when she was on me. So I would, that was a huge stress reliever for me. I would run to the high school with my ball in hand, and I would do that a few times a week. In college, if I had a bad game, after when we drove home, I would go out to the field and the track, and I would take balls and I would just hit them and I would shoot. So for me, it was shooting. Something about hitting that ball as hard as I could and placing it gave me a release and something to just, relieve my stress as a whole. But no, and I loved it. I loved it. And I still love soccer, and I love the connections I've made from it. And I love the people I've met and the memories I've made. I just never could get enough of it. So I always had a ball near with me. So, you know, I think in this day and age, we say they have to do so much that we end up doing too much and not doing it well. Right. So I think if you can really concentrate on a few things that you want to do really well and be really passionate about and go for it, you're going to do great things. If you do too much, you can really spread yourself thin and end up not liking it. It ends up being a job. And that's what saddens me sometimes. I think we overdo it sometimes, we get burnt out, and you do not know the opportunities that you're missing out on. So I encourage you all to stay with it. Even when you're in a bad patch, it will get better, and try to think about the great memories that you have and the coaches and the teammates, and let that kind of pull you through to get over that.
Thank you, Angel. And we do have a question here. A player had a question about how to manage being a multi-sport athlete these days when there's so much pressure to be a one sport athlete. How do you mentally manage that?
Yeah, I think you communicate. I think you have to communicate. You'd be honest with your coaches. And I hope that you'll find coaches that actually will support you more than you think you would. I think a lot of times we hide from, oh, I don't want them to know that I'm doing this later, or I have both of these things. I think communication with both coaches, and find your match. You will find people that are going to be okay with both and support you in both ways. You just have to find it. But it is hard, right? But I will tell you, on the upskill, and I was the same way. I went to, in the fall, I would do soccer and soccer. In the winter, I would go to gymnastics to soccer. And in the spring, I would go track to soccer. And I had it, and for us, where you had to travel further, I was traveling an hour and a half one way to get to those soccer. But I was getting home till 10 or 11 at night and trying to do it all. But let me tell you, I'm an organized woman. I'm strong and confident, and I can get things done, and I can multitask, and I can do it because I went through that. So as stressful as it can seem, it is well worth your while, and you're going to gain skills that are going to just make you rock stars when you get out there in the real world and have to conquer some things. So, but I think communicate and just be honest. And, I had as a high school coach, I know who's playing outside. I'll work with you as long as you let me know. So I think you'll find coaches that should be helpful for you with that.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Maybe our last question for the night. Well, I did take a lot of notes, Angel, and I think that's one of the benefits of having guests join us, is that we can always take nuggets of knowledge and apply it to our own world. And you know what, for me, what I really liked was the 3 columns, and I'm going to work on my to-do list this month. It's a new month. So I think we all could work on a few things. And I also want you to realize, Angel's a high-level player, high-level coach, but the struggle was part of her journey. So when you look at people who come to us, to our impact group, it's not like all of a sudden, it's a journey. It wasn't that it was easy the whole way, just like it won't be easy for you. The struggle is where we all learn. And if you embrace that, you'll get to the other side of that mountain. You have to trust the process and the growth that will happen. And I'm glad that Angel did bring up the growth mindset. Carol Dweck wrote a book, The Growth Mindset, and she's a lot of videos out on YouTube. I think it's a required book actually for parents at certain school districts for their elementary and middle school students, because it really is important to understand that where you are today should not be where you are next week, next year, or in 2 years, that there is a chance for a change if you embrace it, or you could be happy where you are. And if you're happy where you are, you're going to get lapped. And that's what we're trying to say here, is just put in the time to understand who you are and to find those mental tools to make you stronger on and off the field. So Angel, always a pleasure to spend time with you, my friend. I really appreciate it. We will, hopefully you can come back again another time as well, and maybe do an in-person session with the group. I know that's where you really are great on the field with players and and doing activities like that. So I really appreciate it. So on behalf of all of the impact players, coaches, and directors, thank you again for joining us tonight.
Anytime, anytime. Good luck with everyone
Great.
with your rest of your seasons.
Thank you. Good luck to you as well. Thanks everybody for joining us. And again, this will be on our YouTube channel for those that missed. Really appreciate it.